Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're talking directly to you, the educators, the teachers, the instructional designers in the room. We're looking at a huge shift in how we approach the classroom. We are moving away from that traditional topic-centered grind, and we're totally embracing competency-based teaching. It's a real game changer for the entire learning dynamic. Okay, let's dive into this.
It's literally the universal frustration, right? Like, why do students forget what we teach them, even after we've painstakingly covered the syllabus? Picture this. A student absolutely aces a worksheet on fractions on a Wednesday, right? But then cut to Saturday and they're completely frozen trying to have a recipe in their own kitchen. You know the feeling. You've spent weeks planning, you delivered these fantastic, energetic lessons, you finished the syllabus right on the dot. But then test time rolls around or a real-world problem pops up and blank stares. It's the question that keeps teachers up at night, and honestly, it leaves us all feeling a bit defeated.
Well, the answer actually requires a hard look at our own methods. It's because we focus way too heavily on teaching topics instead of building competencies. We get so caught up in, making sure we cover Chapter 4 by Friday that we actually forget to ask if the students gained a usable skill from Chapter 4. We're basically just checking off boxes on a syllabus instead of building actual capability in our students' minds.
So, let's clearly define our terms here. Competency-based teaching is an approach that focuses entirely on what students can do with their knowledge rather than just what they know. Think of this as the missing link for student retention, because it's not enough to just memorize facts for a Friday quiz, right? Competency is the actual application of those facts. It's all about turning passive receivers of information into active users of it.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the massive mindset shift required from us as educators. We're basically stepping out of an old paradigm and embracing a totally new one. Just look at the first shift. We're moving from a focus on delivering content to really nurturing a competency. Then there's the shift from the teacher's action, which is teaching, to the student's actual experience, learning. And finally, the absolute most critical leap of all, moving from mere knowing to actual doing. Knowing absolutely must transform into doing if we want learning to stick permanently.
Section 1. The Master Formula. Subtitle, TCAAE. This simple 5-letter acronym is pretty much your definitive tool to bridge that gap between a static syllabus and dynamic student skills. It's a totally practical blueprint for designing lessons that actually engage and endure. Let's break down exactly what this formula stands for so you can start using it right away. First up, T is for topic. This is just the raw subject matter, the basic unit of your syllabus that you need to cover. Next is C for competency. Once you've got your topic, you figure out the specific skill or ability the student needs to develop from it. Third, we have A for activity. This is the absolutely crucial step where you design a task allowing students to actively practice that specific competency. The second A is for assessment. This is simply how you measure if the activity successfully built the competency, like can they actually demonstrate it. And finally, E for extension. Here's where you connect the learning to real-world applications or maybe more advanced concepts. So, topic, competency, activity, assessment, extension. It's a completely logical, repeatable flow for every single lesson.
Section 2. Application across subjects. Subtitle, Seeing the Formula in Action.
Let's move to these examples and see how this builds, because this formula really does work universally across all classrooms. Start with language. You have a story, that's your topic. The activity becomes a role play, and boom, the competency built is expression. Let's look at mathematics. The topic is a math concept, the activity is solving a real-life problem, and the competency is application. For science, it's shifting from just reading a dry theoretical concept to actually conducting an experiment, which leads to the competency of critical observation. And over in social science, you take a historical or social topic, organize a discussion, and you build the competency of real-life connection. Regardless of what subject you teach, the formula translates perfectly.
Section 3. Activity Selection Insight. Subtitle, Matching Action to Competency.
Here's the thing. You can't just pick any fun game off the internet and call it a learning activity. The right activity depends entirely on the specific competency you want to build. Let's look at some specific pairings to really nail down this matching process. If the competency you're aiming for is understanding, well, the appropriate activity might be creating a concept map. If the competency is application, you'd use a case study. If you want to build a specific interpersonal skill, a role play is perfect. And if your goal is deep analysis, you set up a debate. So the crucial point is that you have to select an activity that intentionally, actively, and specifically builds your targeted skill. It's a precise one-to-one matching process, not just guesswork.
Activity is not entertainment. It is the visible form of competency.
This quote is just profoundly important. Let this core educational philosophy really sink into your mind. We aren't creating activities just to keep students busy or to make the class superficially fun. The activity is literally the physical manifestation of the learning. When a student is engaged in the right activity, you are literally watching their competency unfold and solidify right there in front of you.
So I want to leave you with a direct, practical challenge as we wrap up today. Take any topic you are teaching tomorrow. Just one. Look at your lesson plan right now. Ask yourself, what should the child actually do with this information? Don't ask what they should read. Don't ask what they should memorize. Ask what they should physically or mentally execute. Then, based on that answer, design just one activity using the formula we've explored today.
Ultimately, everything we've talked about today comes down to one absolutely simple truth. If students can do, they have learned. And this brilliantly illustrates the true measure of effective teaching. It's really not about the volume of content we covered. It is entirely about what our students are now capable of doing in the real world. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. As you step into your classroom tomorrow, ask yourself, are you just checking off a topic, or are you actually building a competency that's going to last a lifetime?